Hello, friends. Today we are joined by Amy Milcic, a homeschool soccer mom to 5 boys who believes that you can make learning and life fun, even if you feel frazzled and frustrated. She shares creative solutions so that you can connect with your kids using growth mindset and interest-led learning experiences. Amy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, can you start by just telling us a little bit about yourself and your family and how you even came to homeschooling?
Sure. Okay, so my name is Amy Milcic, and like Amy said, okay, I have 5 boys, and their ages are 6, 9, 11, 15, and 17. I have to pause a second to make sure I got that all right, because when you have birthdays um, and I homeschool all 5 of them. So this year I have a first grader and I have a senior. So this is oh my goodness. Before boys, I was a mental health therapist, and I did individual, group, family therapy, in-home. I was all over the place. And so I feel like that was a really good preparation for being a homeschool mom, having that type of background. And yeah, and so how we started homeschooling, my older 2 boys started in public school. And it was fine. We have a great local public school. They made a lot of friends, but my oldest in 3rd grade started getting migraines. He has a congenital eye condition. I won't get into all of it, but he only has vision in one eye. And the changes in curriculum with smaller print, more, he's very tall, so he would be put in the back of the room, and accommodations were not being made the way that they really needed to be to help him thrive. And we just decided, you know what, we are going to try this homeschool thing and see if we can help him feel comfortable and thrive at home. When we brought that up to, I think at that time we only had 3 boys, they were like, I want to homeschool too. And so every year we check in with them. We see what they want to do. Is this working? Is it not? And it's been working. So, knock on wood. And that's just how we've got into it.
I love that because, there are so many different ways that people come into the homeschool adventure. And it's really interesting to hear, there could be many different reasons, but so many moms will say something like, and then we just started doing it year by year. And here we are almost at the end of the homeschool journey. So
yeah,
exciting. Yeah. I bet your background was probably amazing for preparing you as a homeschool mom, because I often think the parenting part, the emotional and relational part, can be the hardest part of homeschooling.
It really can. And I've always tried as a mom to focus on having relationship over perfection, and really just connecting with my boys, positive communication. And it's really hard too, because there's that fine line of where you're the mom or the friend, and I really want to be the mom to them, but I want them to know that they can always come to me and talk to me about things. And so I do try to make that a large part of our homeschool, where we just stay open with communication, and reinforcing how you get along with other people and that type of thing. So I do think that training has helped me a lot. And I say that all the time. God knew what he was doing when he gave me 5 boys and led me into that field.
Yes, totally. Well, how has your approach to homeschooling, grown and changed over these years?
Oh, wow, a lot. When I started homeschooling, I was pretty type A. I come from a public school background myself. Both of my parents were public school teachers. And so I had that ingrained in me. That's what you do. And so I was very concerned about the structure, the schedule. Are we doing enough? What are there gaps? Are they missing out on something? So I overplanned. I overplanned. Our first day of school was I can't believe we survived it, honestly. So I think that's normal, because you care so much, and I really wanted to do a good job, but I wasn't even sure what that meant. So now, over the years. And again, like the time we started, we only had 3 boys. So I've homeschooled from having like an infant, toddler. I had to learn to really relax, let go of some expectations, and just kind of roll with it. Because I used to like freak out, like, oh my gosh, we didn't get this checked off. We didn't do this. Oh, I'm ruining them. There was the big like fear of missing out as well. And nowadays I'm just like, whatever, we're doing our thing. It's working for us. So I feel like that's been like the biggest change. And then the other thing I would say is that I had this expectation that like I was going to pick one curriculum or one thing, and it was going to work for all of my boys. So I would like hours and hours and hours of research. And I get that thing, and it might work for the first one, but not that second one, because they're all different. And it's one of the beauties of homeschooling is that we have the flexibility to pick what works. At least that's how we approach homeschooling, because we're relaxed, we're eclectic homeschoolers. And so I think that was a big mindset shift for me as well.
Yeah, it's like that elusive myth of the perfect curriculum, the perfect homeschool plan. If I could just plan it just right to the last detail, our day would run smoothly. Or if I just picked the perfect curriculum. And that's just not going to be the case, because a lot of times that actually ends up putting more of a burden on your homeschool day, because, you have a little one who has a blowout diaper, or you have an older one who is having an emotional crisis, and you've got to stop and deal with those things. And that's why we always talk about in our homeschool, like a big picture plan. So we kind of have a framework. Like I like to have a plan and know where we're going and feel like we are, being disciplined in our day and our time, but it's not so structured that we can't go with the flow, because stuff always happens.
Exactly.
Well, what has been an unexpected joy of homeschooling 5 boys? And then have there been any challenges associated with that?
An unexpected joy, like something I never imagined, was the close relationship, the bond the 5 of them have. I mean, they don't always get along. I mean, they're siblings, but they're a lot closer than I ever imagined possible. And I think a big part of it is because they're together so often. And my 2 older boys still have some things to do with the high school, with the soccer team there. And I just see the difference between the relationship of their friends with their siblings compared to because my boys are like, yeah, they cheer for each other. They're like really involved with each other. And that has been such a blessing for our family. And they'll say they're each other's best friends. And I love that part of it. And then really, like, I wasn't sure if I was going to like homeschooling, because I was like, is this for me? And so that's been an unexpected joy as well, because I just wasn't sure. So yeah. And then an unexpected challenge. Oh goodness. I would say the grocery bill. I never, like, okay, you have 5 boys, and they're going to eat a lot. I mean, kids eat a lot. But I really never, like, they're home 24/7. And so the snacks, and they're hobbits, my kids are. And there's always somebody growing. And so it's like, oh, I got to go to the store again. And it's okay. They're healthy. They're good. But like, my goodness, I would say that was one of the most unexpected things that no one ever told me about. But yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to that. My oldest is 15 and he's 6'4", and all the kids are big for their age. And so yes, we go through so many, even if you try to do like healthy snacks, it's like so many apples and bananas and nuts. I just bought cashews last week.
Yes, exactly. And you don't think about that, but when they're at school or wherever, I mean, yes, you have to pack stuff or whatever, but it's just different. It's just different. So I would say that's the biggest challenge.
I love what you said too about the relationship, especially, it's interesting. So mine are a little the age gap is a little differently, but I go 5 to 15. So
Okay.
just a little different with our 5. And I just don't think, especially the older ones and the younger ones, the ones who are farther apart, I don't think they would have that same close relationship if they were always away from each other. I mean, they wouldn't they would never be in the same classes.
Yeah.
Last night we had a baseball game, and afterwards all the younger siblings were waiting for their big brother, and the three younger ones just go and like run and hug him, like as all the, the big tough players are coming out.
Oh yeah.
And he just stopped and gave them hugs
Oh,
and was talking to
I
them.
love that.
And that's just one of those special mom moments that makes me really thankful for homeschooling.
Oh yeah. Or like if my boys are apart for like 2 hours, even sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, we're back together. And I'm like, this is cool. I never thought that would happen, but all right.
Yeah. Well, remind them of that in those moments where they're completely losing it with each
Yes,
other.
yes. That's a good idea. That's a very good idea.
Well, changing gears a little bit, talking about kind of the homeschool mom, we can do busy like nobody's business. And
yes.
it is so easy to feel overwhelmed with all the good things that we're doing. So how can we find joy in the midst of these busy homeschool mom lives?
Wine? No, okay, I'm gonna be serious. Or maybe chocolate. No.
Chocolate, yeah.
I have 3 things that I do. And I think, everybody has to find their own thing. I'm a firm believer in that. I am a planner girl. So like I make very loose plans, but I have to have things written out. So like I have my planner right here, and I write everything down in there, and it's like kind of like where I just get it all out. So I think having a planner, and you could use a paper planner or online planner, whatever works for you. And then I'm a big believer in having a list. Like I am a list girl. I mean, I got oh my gosh. So that helps me deal with the overwhelm. So it's like, okay, for grammar today, if we're doing this, like I even make lists for homeschool, for home management, whatever we need to work on. That helps me deal with the overwhelm, because then my biggest thing, because I tend to squirrel, it's just my personality. I'm afraid, or I also say I have Swiss cheese brain, that I'll forget. Like it goes in and then it's like, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. Oh yeah, I forgot how to do that. So I have to write it down. And that helps me deal with overwhelm, because I'm like, okay, at least if I have it on paper, it'll help me feel better. And then I think a big thing with the overwhelm is like letting it go of that thing that we have to do all ourselves, and that it's okay to ask for help. And that can be in so many, different shapes and forms of like, whether it's asking your significant other to step in, or another mom, or, asking an older sibling to help a younger sibling. I think that can really help you deal with overwhelm and feeling like you don't have to do it all. And then my big thing is like when I can combine ages, like with being a larger homeschool family, oh my gosh, that it's just such a time saver. And it's also a really nice way to like work kind of one-on-one with some of the boys, but like in a small group, that they learn patience and all of that. And that just kind of extends into our whole life. So.
Oh, I love that. Those are all really great tips. Well, what does growth mindset look like for us as homeschool moms? Because I know you talk about that. And then how can we kind of teach that and pass that on to our children?
Again, I think everybody's different, but coming from my background, I think as a homeschool mom, we have a lot of like expectations that we've either heard from the outside, like external or internal. And so I think like a big thing is to like let go of that negative thinking, which could be something like the shoulds or shouldn't do. Like I should be this really patient and perfect mom. And that's just not realistic. None of us are like that. Or like, oh, I can't do that because like, I think that can really help with having more of a positive mindset. So just like kind of, for me, what I have to do, not when I'm in the middle of it all, because usually there's like 500 things going on, but it's usually for me at the end of the day, reflecting on what we did and how did it go, and looking at, okay, what was going on? What was I thinking? That's like a big thing. Like, was I starting to panic and letting it build? So what could I do next time? Can I just stop myself and say, wait a minute, this isn't as bad as I'm making it be in my head. And how can I either just pivot and try something new, or do I need to change that thought to help us move forward? So I don't know if that makes sense or not, but
no, it does.
I think that's a big thing with growth mindset for moms. And then as for kids, I think like there's like a lot of great tools that you can use. Like, I don't know if you've used Big Life Journal. They have some different resources that can really help explain to kids a lot of these concepts. And then you read the stories about an individual in their life, and then you apply that in conversation, and there's different activities and stuff. So Big Life Journal is one way that we do that. And I think another really big thing with kids, well, and ourselves, is paying attention to the language, to like the words that we're using, and not just the language and words, but like body language, tone, like how it's being said, and how, like, if you just get that feeling like this is negative, like this is not pushing us forward, this is not a good thing, and just stopping and talking about it. And it might need to be, especially as your kids get older, or any age really, but like sitting next to them and working on an activity, even if you're coloring, like, hey, I noticed that, and just make it really casual. I did that a lot with the boys, where we're playing a game and just making an observation, like a very casual observation, helping them talk about it. And then, okay, well, what do you think you could do next time when you're feeling frustrated? Like when you want to give up, how can you, be more persistent, that type of thing. That's what I try to do with my boys in our homeschool. And I think it can be helpful.
And that's so smart too, because you're not like coming in like, okay, I noticed this problem and let's talk about this issue that we need to improve. It's more like, no one's going to listen to that. I don't listen if something comes to me. Exactly. Yeah. So instead it's more like open-ended questions, like kind of non-confrontational ways of approaching it. Like, I noticed this, or what were you, how were you feeling when this happened? One of the things I talk to my children about sometimes, when especially like the younger ones, they'll find, they'll be struggling with like a math problem or whatever. And it's like automatically, I can't do it. I'm terrible. This is horrible. Everything is wrong with the world. I'll never be able to do it. And we stop and are like, okay, well, you are having trouble with it. It's not the same thing as not being able to do it. And we talk about like telling yourself a true story. Because sometimes you just like create this story in your head, and the more you say it to yourself, the more you think that's true. But sometimes you're telling yourself a lie. So
exactly.
You need to remember what's actually true. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, I need to confess something and tell you a secret. Sometimes I don't feel like a very fun mom. And when I talked to our friend Mary Wilson in season 1 of the Homeschool Conversations series, she was very encouraging. She was like, you don't have to be fun the same way other people are fun. Every mom finds their own way of being fun. But I would love to hear how you bring the fun to your homeschool, and like what being a fun homeschool mom means to you, because your site is full of so many fun things.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Well, first of all, seriously, like, I don't always feel like a fun mom, like I'll say, oh, I'm a fun mom, but I don't always feel that, I mean, I think that's all of us. And I agree with Mary, like one of my big things is that I feel like fun is relative. And one of the ways that I came to that was like, I used to be on Periscope. I don't even know if you were on that app like back in the day, but that's where I met Dawn Garrett, who I absolutely love. Dawn.
I love Dawn. Love Dawn.
She's like one of my favorites. And we were talking, I was talking on there one day and just, my ramble. And we talked about how fun is relative. And like her type of fun is very different than my style of fun. But I love like her Instagram is amazing. Okay. And so like, I love following along and what her and her family do. And it's fun for them. And it looks completely different than what we do, but I get inspiration from that. So I think it's really cool that like, when you can figure out what's fun for you and with your kids. So Dawn, I don't know why that just like popped in my head with her, because it's just like, you know, that was something she taught me, that she's like, well, yeah, everybody does fun different. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. So
well, let me pause there really quickly. So anyone who's listening, definitely check out Dawn Garrett. She's at Lady Dusk on Instagram. And I also talked to her in season 1. So I'll link up to all that in the show notes here.
Oh, cool.
But yeah. So continue.
Okay. So I just feel like, okay, so fun, how like we get to even use that in our homeschool. Like I use fun to help like take the pressure and the stress off. Cause like you said, we might be working on something with math and it's like, you know, like freaking out. And I try to, like, especially in those moments, to say, all right, you know, we pause, we go through the whole thing. I'm like, all right, what's going on here? Like, could we be doing this a different way, that it could be more fun and engaging, that just takes off that pressure? Like if like my little guy is working on addition, so it's like instead of him getting like we might play like a quick memory game, or I get out dice, something like that. And so I really try to make it engaging, something that, well, for me, a boy, but like that child would enjoy, that's engaging for them, like, or interested. Like, so my boy, like, we're huge Harry Potter fans, like just huge. So if I can ever incorporate anything like that, or, you know, when they were younger, like trucks or sports, anything like one thing, like, so my older 2 play soccer, and my one is like with physics and stuff. And so we were just talking, and he was just like, I don't like this. And so we like talked about like the physics behind kicking a soccer ball. I mean, it was just really cool. So I like try to look at it that way, and how it can make it fun with something that they already need to learn, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Another thing I try to change it up. I find that like my kids are like, I can be a little hyper. Like if you can't tell, I have a hard time sitting still. So we get up, we move around, we will take the books outside. We will just go in another room. We will sit upside down on the couch. Like all of us. I really try to do stuff like that because I need that. I'm not good sitting down for long periods of time. And so I try to get like hands-on things, maybe like using like a balloon or something, and just fun stuff that gets us up and moving. Like we will write sight words on a balloon and like start bopping it around. If you catch it, what's the sight word? Like stuff like that.
I love that idea. That's so fun.
Yeah. So like, and I mean, I have to say that like my mom was a kindergarten teacher, full day. My mom is so like she is full of so many fun ideas. I feel like I inherited or just like learned to like, you know, shoot from the hip. And so I'll be like, oh, why don't we do da 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 da? And I'll be like, thanks, Mom. You know, so yeah, so I think she was like a really good example for me of like, it doesn't have to be boring. You can make this exciting. And then, okay, then one more thing is that like, I will get totally goofy. And that's just my personality. Like not everybody's like this. And, you know, but like, of course, the whole like reading in different voices. I love to do that. I love it when my boys do that. Like sometimes I will just get up. What we were learning about something the other day. And I just got up and I was like going like this while I'm reading. And they're like, oh, look at Mom. What is she doing? But like just to capture their attention, you know, and just like silly stuff like that. The kids like. No, my high schoolers, sometimes they look at me and they're like, what is she doing? But, you know, still.
Oh, yeah. You know, embarrassing our kids is one of our jobs. They like it.
It truly
they do.
Yeah.
Well, Amy, here at the end, I'm going to ask you 2 questions I'm asking all of my guests this season. And the first one is just, what are you reading lately?
What am I reading lately?
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. I always have like a big basket. What I've been doing lately is I go to our library app because I miss my library. Our library is still closed. So I've been doing like, I'll just scroll. So anyways, I have been reading, one thing that I read that was so good, it had like a growth mindset thing, was called The Coffee Bean. I don't know if you ever heard that. It's from a few years ago, but it could really be for all ages. And it was a really cool story about this boy who learned a really important lesson and how he carried it through his whole life. So that was a great book. And then The Hamilton Affair. I don't know if you read that. I think it's from a few years. I think it's what Hamilton was based on. Anyways, it was like, I love historical fiction, so it was really cool.
Yeah, and that's about Hamilton's wife, Eliza, right?
Yes. Yeah,
So
and then her sisters.
And it's the historical fiction. I think the musical, because I'm a huge Hamilton the musical fan, was based on the Ron Chernow biography.
Oh, okay. See, I'm not even sure. Like, I've seen the musical, but this book was like, yeah, it wasn't based on that, but it was really good just to learn more about his history and everything.
Yeah.
And then with the boys, we just finished reading The One and Only Ivan, and we're using Mary's Celebrate a Book. Yeah. So that's gonna be so much fun. We're doing that next week. I can't wait. And we are just starting the Mysterious Benedict Society. So I read it with my older two, and now we're gonna get into it. So like, yay! I love revisiting books like that. So
have they read The Westing Game? My children, who really like the Mysterious Benedict Society series, are also big fans of The Westing Game. So
okay, I'll have to look that up.
It's a good one. All right, and then what is one thing, Amy, that you would say to a new homeschool mom?
Oh my, one thing I would say would be keep it simple. We tend to overcomplicate things, and our kids just want us, and it doesn't have to be a lot. I'm really going on here, but like, it doesn't have to be a lot, but just if you keep it simple, I just think it's wonderful for everybody that way.
Yeah, that's a good reminder, even for those of us who aren't new homeschool moms.
Yeah.
Amy, where can people find you all around the internet?
At my blog, rockyourhomeschool.net. I have a Facebook page and a group, which is cool. It's very active. You can find us there. We just chit chat about everything homeschool, and Instagram. So, yeah.
Great. And I will have all those things linked up in the show notes for this episode at humilityanddoxology.com. Amy, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.